Welcome to I Write Out Loud. I am Dana Dubois, and you might notice things look a little different. The angle is slightly different. I'm using my webcam instead of my phone. Oh, and there's my dog complaining as always, Kira. Hello. And I'm already in the chat because I'm joining right from my computer instead of my phone. Hold on. Looks like it's maybe a little crooked. I don't know. I'm a little self-conscious just because of how my monitor is and whatnot, that you're seeing the mess of my house. Oh, see the bin of cables behind me? See if I can block that. Um, it is all good. Coco says hi to Kira. Well, hello back, Coco. It is nice to know there are other dogs here on the chat. Uh, can you see? I don't know if you're on mobile. I don't think you can see Kira's tail wagging. I see it in the bottom corner of the screen. Um, but welcome. I'm so glad that you all have joined so quickly. Per usual, I will give a few minutes for folks to join where I just talk a little and introduce the I Write Out Loud project. I will say it's strange talking into a webcam because I keep wanting to look over and see myself, but I'm going to try not to do that. I'm going to try to ignore myself and just look right at you all like this. But do tell me if it looks or sounds off because I can't tell and I don't have a co-host to keep me in line when I do these. I'm also this show is sponsored by Nature Naws. It is not, but it should be because it is what keeps my dog content while I do these shows. Would you like this? She says yes. Kira has taken the treat. So I write out loud. This is the home for my creative nonfiction, my memoir writing, etc. This is a place where I will be resharing essays from my past and also sharing my new essays. And it is my audacious act during bleak times to focus on art and creativity and words. And it came to be because I both wanted one beautiful home for my writing. It's kind of scattered all over the internet right now. And also because of this sense of anger I found myself feeling that the current administration has taken so much from us. And I think in running us ragged, it is also kind of beating the creative and best impulses within us out. It felt very navel-gazy to me last year to think about posting memoir when the world was on fire. This is me taking that back and being like, nope, I am going to talk about these very niche personal stories because they are my life's work. And I hope that most of them come from a place that is personally and culturally relevant, and that you all will enjoy reading and hearing me read. So that is the gist of the I Write Out Loud project. Today is day 7. And I'm blown away at how many of you all have shown up and supported this little idea of mine. So thank you. Thanks to everyone who is here. And thanks to everyone who has read or shared, restacked, commented on any of my work so far. I am calling this week Origin Story Week. Last week was my first one. I had one news story, and then I shared 4 from my archive, and they were across different topics that I write about. And I just sort of picked ones that struck my fancy. But in looking to this week, I was like, what do I want to do for week 2? And I asked my Sunday live. On Sundays, I do a live that is for paid subscribers only, where you get a little bit more of the tea. I spill a bit more of the tea and also talk a bit about editorial planning for the next week. And we all agreed on the theme of origin story. I feel like when I started writing, it wasn't like, I was like, I'm going to write about X and Y. Here I go. I figured it out as I went, but I can see in retrospect that there are core themes, of course, that have come out and that there were pivotal stories that were the origin stories for each of these topics. So yesterday I shared an origin story that was the nugget that ended up launching Pink Hair and Pronouns, my publication for parenting gender nonconforming kids. That is a topic I've written about quite a bit. I also write about dating, sex, relationships quite a bit, especially in the cultural context of being a single woman in my 50s looking for love. So, the story that I shared today that we'll be talking about on this podcast, which is called I Had a Little R Relationship, is kind of the origin story in terms of writing about dating and relationships. And for some of these origin stories, like yesterday's, I looked at it and I was like, oof, the writing kind of made me cringe. Definitely developed my voice more. Today's, I was like, damn, this is one of the best ones I've ever written. I'm pretty proud of the actual writing and also relaying a pretty nuanced topic. So I'm really excited to get into it. Um, one moment longer, and I will. I will just say my pitch of all of my work is always in front of the paywall. It will always be free. The writing, the narration that I do for each piece, I personally record the audio that goes with each one because if I'm creating an archive, I don't want AI reading my work. I want to read my work, so you hear it with the voice and emphasis as intended by me. And then doing this podcast, obviously, it takes a lot of time and effort. It is a labor of love. But if it is a labor you wish to support and you have the means to support, I would love that. And if you go to my subscribe page, you will see that it is $4 a month, $40 a year to subscribe. That's 20% off. I plan to keep it at that price this whole year, which begs the question of, is it a discount if it's running the whole year? But I'm going to say it is. It's 20% off. It is what I hope is a pretty accessible price point for most. And then I also have a founding $88 level because eights are my favorite number. When I've said this every episode, when I hit 88 of these stories live, I will know that I have a body of work. And I have more than 88 stories just to port over. And I also am writing new ones. So I will get there. It's just a matter of how quickly I can turn them out. This is number 7. Tomorrow we will celebrate that it's number 8. And that will make me happy. My stories always go live at 8:08 a.m. Eastern Time. That's 5:08 my time. And I am hoping to add 88 new paid subscribers before I get to 88 stories live. That will be a very good feeling. Karen, thank you for putting the URLs in there. And there is a simpler one to subscribe. I'm going to go grab it just because I can. And sometimes when you go to the subscribe, it makes a big ugly link. But if for anyone's page, I think if you just go to the person's name, in my case, DanaDuboisWrites.substack.com, whack subscribe, that takes you to the subscription page. So there it is, a little bit cleaner. So thanks to all of you who are here, who are supporting me by subscribing, either free or paid subscriptions. Both are welcome. I'm very happy that you are all here. Oh, we have a big crowd here today. So I'm going to jump in the story. And for the first time, I didn't create a cheat sheet for myself. I usually have notes and I outline what I want to read. I didn't have a chance to today because life happens and I ended up needing to, sorry about that. I ended up needing to take my daughter to urgent care this morning. She's fine, but that took that part of my morning away. So you're going to get me a little less formal. I also might need to end a little bit before the top of the hour um, because the day is full. So I will jump in and I will talk about this story. It is called I Had a Little R Relationship. And I know Karen put the link in, but I'm going to grab it too. And I'm probably going to keep cutting it in. I will admit, since we're doing some behind the scenes stuff here, that I didn't coin the term little R relationship. I had a friend many years ago use that expression. And her little lo-fi band back in Seattle in 2002, I believe they were called Goodbye Charlie, which was a play off of Hello Kitty. They had a song about a little R relationship, and that has always stuck with me of like, what is a little R relationship? Oops. I realized I just cut and paste the link from Medium from Human Parts, and so did you, Karen. I grabbed the wrong one. Look at me go. So let me go grab the correct link because I know if you're not a Medium subscriber, you won't be able to read it. And um, I clearly have too many windows open, right? I had that one open from when I was first building and reading it yesterday. Okay. So there is the link on Substack. Yeah, you copied me, Karen. It was a Ouroboros of incorrect information, the snake eating the tail. Um, so I uh, that term that a friend kind of tossed off years ago has it stuck with me, and it came back up when I was processing the end of my last very long-term relationship. And I think it could mean a lot of things to a lot of people. A little R relationship. What does that mean? Um, in the context of this story, it wasn't little as in short-lived. It was the second longest relationship of my life, the man I married being first. Um, and it was 6 years. It was a little over 6 years that I was with this man. It was a little our relationship in that in a very uncharacteristic of me way, it was lighter weight. And it was lighter weight because at a certain level, I didn't have that sense of really deep love with him. And this story really gets into the ins and outs of why it worked, what didn't work, why I stayed in spite of not feeling that deep sense with him, and then why I ultimately left. And I've never had a relationship like it before nor since. And I don't know that I will because there were lessons, to be learned in having this relationship. And when I say lessons, like they were mostly good lessons. I'm going to jump into the story a bit. And I think I'm going to do this a little differently than I have in the past, where I am going to read parts of the story and then pause and talk, and then read parts of the story and pause and talk. And I'm going to do it because I'm very arrogant. And I think the way it's written is beautiful, and I couldn't explain it better than by reading it. And so this was one that I wrote in October of 2023, so 2.5 years ago. And like I said, I reread it to read when I read it out loud, and I was like, wow, this is really beautiful. The two things that struck me were both, this is really beautiful, and the ending now makes me sad, which we'll get into at the end. Um, so I'm gonna start reading the beginning. If you want to follow along, you can. I'm not going to read the whole thing through. You can go back and listen to the audio that's on the page if you would like to hear me read the whole story. But I think this is going to be a nice way to walk through what happened because it's complicated to explain. So I'll be looking off camera a little bit. My apologies as I read. But the story is I had a little R relationship. A romantic idealist reckons with finding and then losing Mr. Not Quite Right. I don't want this, my boyfriend said to me, stone-faced. We'd spent 5 glorious months together, my heart on fire. Then on my birthday, he picked our first fight. I apologized, halfway broken, baffled, in tears, and then told him I loved him for the first and only time. He wished me a happy birthday in return. He'd leave me for his best friend's wife a few weeks later. He didn't want this. He wanted that. I was crushed, devastated. A few months later, Trump won the election. Nothing made sense anymore. I could barely eat or get out of bed. That had never happened to me before, nor since. I foolishly decided dating again might help. November and December saw a double wham bam of dickheads who couldn't manage to keep condoms on their dicks. My heartache intensified to despondency with a side of STD panic. I had to try something else. I started New Year's Day 2017 alone in a favorite cafe with a perfect oat milk latte, my first dose of Wellbutrin, and a morning after pill. Bottoms up 2017, I toasted myself as I sucked down the pills with the creamy brew. Things had to get better. So, from a writing perspective, this one, I jump in immediately, right? Um, I am outlining the demise of a different relationship, a relationship that to me was a big maybe actually it was a little our relationship of a different kind, but it was short term, it was about 5 months, um, but I was mad about this guy from the minute I saw him. It was one of those electric whirlwind, like, reactions as soon as I saw him, and he seemed to feel the same way about me and was very committed right from the start, and at his nudging, we introduced our kids very quickly to one another. It's the only time I've done that. Hold on, let me pause. It is the only relationship in the 13, 14 years since my marriage ended where that was the case. My kids knew he was my boyfriend. Our kids met. He was all in, all gung ho until he wasn't, until this incident I'm describing, where he picked a fight out of nowhere. In retrospect, it was the day that he heard from his best friend's wife that their marriage had ended. And it was a few-week devolution of me being like, "This doesn't seem right," and then he eventually broke things off with me because he didn't feel enough for me, but I found out that he had left me for her, and I believe he has since married her. So, um, even though it was a really not a long-term relationship, it was only 5 months, I have pretty good, I am resilient typically by nature. I have never been rocked by a breakup like this one, and I think it's because it had come on the heels of a few post-marriage relationships, and I met this guy, and I remembered saying to friends, like, "If this isn't the love I've been waiting for, there is not a love waiting for me." And it ended, and so there was not a love waiting for me in my mind. This was it, and I had never before been on any kind of psych medication, but for months, I was just decimated, like, I was just so griefy about this, like, it just shows that the heart, it's a bad timekeeper, I say that a lot, and it also, the proportions of reaction don't always map to the timing or duration of a relationship. So, this is an example of when I just got walloped. That's the intro to this story, and I then go on to, try to date my way out of it, and I twice end up sleeping with a guy whose condom mysteriously comes off, and I'm freaked out. I'm fine, by the way. And so I'm starting off a new year just like, "Okay, I'm going on antidepressants, and I'm gonna take care of myself." So, I won't read the whole story, but it goes on from there, and, Wellbutrin was wonderful for me. I am very lucky that I have a buoyant, not a depressive nature by nature. So this was more of a situational depression, and it wasn't something I thought I could seek medication for or should, but I when I went to see my doctor for the STD check, she was like, "You know," like, she looked at me because she's known me for years and was like, "What is happening?" And that was when she was like, "You could take this medicine." And I waited. I had it in my home for a couple weeks, and it was New Year's Day with the morning after pill that I was like, "I have to change something." It so stabilized me. It was one of the better decisions I've made in my life, like, I did not feel different. I was worried that it would numb me or make me feel like not like myself, like a zombie, and it didn't at all. I just felt calm and very much myself, but it just took the edge off, and it gave me a sense of control that I actually really liked. Not control like I was controlling, but just like, I'm ready to take really good care of myself now, right? And I did. I was like, I just wanna eat well and exercise, like, it's the way I wish I woke up every day. And all this weight fell off of me. At first, it was the heartbreak starvation diet. I had lost a lot of weight, but then it continued in a really healthy way. So I turned the dating apps back on. But in the interim, during this depression, it was the first election of Trump and then the inauguration of Trump. So when I wrote this essay in 2023, I thought we were done with Trump, which is something that devastates me every time I see that part of the essay. But that's where I was when I wrote it in 2023. And I just had this, I describe it as nihilistic point of view, which I did. I really was like, there will never be love for me again, probably. But that doesn't mean I need to stop having romantic or sexual adventures. And I look pretty good and I feel really stable. And so I got on the dating apps again. And found that I had a far better response rate. More men and more men who were strong options were responding to me, right? Um, so I start dating one guy, and then this other, I describe him in this very dark horse candidate pops in, right? And I think I'm going to read this next part because, um, actually, I haven't gotten very far in the story. I'll keep going, and then I'll read more. But we, I meet this guy, and he is very effervescent. Not really my type, like really into sports. Um, Short, which I usually like very tall men. But, I just had this very, like, "Why the fuck not? You don't have to marry the guy, just go have some fun," kinda attitude. And I went on a date with him. Oh, wait, first, he said, "You should just Google me. Here's my last name, it'll put you at ease. Google me, you won't find anything." And I Googled him, and I was like, "Oh, you're lying about your age by 5 years. You're not 48, you're 53, and you are still married, and here's her name, and here is your home address, and here's what your home is valued, and I don't date liars." And I meant it, but he, took ownership for for lying, and he explained why, which, why do men lie about their age, and said they, yes, they were still living together. His son was a senior in high school. They were gonna see out senior year and then, um, divorce and sell the house and have but he wanted his last year with his son, and I was like, "Ugh." So, why not? I met him on a date. Was not my type at all, but it made the date really fun because the stakes were very low. And then he kissed me goodnight, surprised me, and I was like, "Wow, that was a really yummy kiss." And then he asked me on another really fancy French restaurant date, and I was like, "That sounds like fun." And so it was this very like, "Is this still fun? Yes, I'll keep doing it." "Okay." And it was fun, and it was sexy, and it was, well, it wasn't sexy yet at that point, it developed that way, and I have never been able to separate dating from looking ahead because I am goal oriented and I know what I want. And um, if there was a man and there was a reason that he was not viable, it would be like, no, this isn't going to work. And this was because I had this kind of we live in Trump's America and I will never find love again. And I'm very calm and I look kind of hot. I'm just going to go have fun because that was my attitude going in. Um, it let me be open to a different kind of relationship, and I actually think it served me in some ways because it isn't healthy to get into a relationship and a week or 2 in be like, "This is my partner already, I just know it." That's not healthy because you don't know somebody yet, right? So that was how I started dating him, and then I wanna read this next part where I come up against the first the first lie. There were kind of 3 defining lies that this story goes through, and Um, here's what happened. In late September, we had a big night out planned, another fancy French dinner downtown, followed by a midnight burlesque show. He texted me ahead of time with how he'd been busted by his wife and had a story to share. Busted, I wrote back. I thought you and your wife were separated. Over pre dinner wine, he relayed how Leah had seen a text from me and gone ballistic. I was so confused and his answers so not satisfying, but it became clear that their separation was more of a gray area than disclosed or perhaps an outright lie. Why was he telling me about this? Did he expect me to be sympathetic? I wasn't. I excused myself to the restroom, buzzed on red wine and apparent falsehoods. I stared myself down in the mirror and thought, well, you like him, but not that much. You could leave now. He's earned it. I was weighing my options, and I told him so. He begged me to stay and then told me he loved me for the first time. I cried. He was baffled, as this was not the reaction he expected. I told him I was feeling emotional, which was true, but not the full story. I cried because I knew he was lying. Not about being in love with me, I was pretty sure that was in earnest, but about the rest of it. He was a good liar, and that's a bad thing for a boyfriend to be good at. I cried because I didn't know if anyone would ever say those words to me again. And here they were ringing in my ears. I cried because someone was saying those words to me again, but why, oh, why was it him? I cried because we'd finished all the wine and none of the food, and it was very, very good, expensive French wine, and I was wine bleary and teary. I wanted out of that booth, and I didn't want the night to end. "Fuck it, let's go see the burlesque show," I said. So onward we went. So that's where the next step in the story is, that I have known him to seen him live, and I accepted it. And if it's not clear by the way I'm writing it, I accept it in part because I'm like, whatever, this is a lightweight, this is a little R, it's a fun thing, and I want it to keep going. I'm not ready to face down the end of this. And then what's really interesting is our relationship proceeds for a few years after that, pretty calmly, and I grew to really trust and care about him. He became foundational in my life in some ways, but in very lightweight ways. It was a couple nights a week, maybe 2, 3 times a week, tops. I would see him because I had my kids the other night, and we never integrated our lives. So, and he was allergic to my cats, so he never spent the night here. So it was like dating for a few months, but also with the support of something deeper when I was unemployed. 4 or 5 months looking for work and really panicked. Like, he never gave up on me. He always told me he believed in me and, like, had my back through everything. Any fun scheme I had schemed up, he was all in. He wanted me to be bigger and more fun and more audacious, which a lot of men claim they want a really independent, you know, live out loud sort of woman. The first guy claimed that, the one who broke my heart, and then in the end, he went and found a damsel in distress, right? Like, once they see what it involves to have a woman who has those needs, then they're like, "Ooh, gotta roll it back." This guy meant it, and that really did mean a lot. And still, and I did end up telling him I loved him, and it wasn't a lie. I get in the story of um it wasn't the fireworks and the trappings that I usually associated with love, that sense of like, whew, and where it netted out was like, instead of having an "I can't live without you," I had a "I choose to live with you" kind of love. And I thought that maybe that was me growing up and accepting the limits of what love should be. And I thought for a while, I thought it was enough. It was stabilizing, and I am a secure, attached kind of person. I like stability. I also really like, a sense of passion and my heart being involved, but I was like, I don't get to have everything. That's just not the path my life is on, was kind of where that ended up. The story then walks through a couple more big lie moments. um, One that happened because we were out at a bar and his phone, which he was always very protective of, which right there is a sign, ladies, in case you're wondering. And I knew that, but I was like, whatever, little R. Uh, his phone just bing, 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 bing started lighting up with all of these notifications from an app called Kix, Kik. And I don't know what most people use Kix for. It's a texting app, but I think it's for secret conversations. I had downloaded it once because I was on a dating app. I outlined this in the story, and a guy asked me if he could send me a dick pic, and I normally would block someone like that, but I was like, "Oh, sure, fine, this will be funny." Uh, he sent it to me, and I was like, "Yeah, wow, okay, you have a penis, fascinating, wonderful." But that's what I used Kicks for, and he didn't have I never met a friend in the 6 years I dated. No, I met one friend once who was in town from college and a few coworkers, but he didn't have a friend group. So I was like, "Who is blowing up your phone?" I asked to see his phone, he would not show it to me. That was one reason, and I let it go. On the Sunday episode, I'll tell you more dirt about that because that's a spicy one. Um, but I don't wanna go into it here because it's too much. the third time I was at his home and I was helping him build a LinkedIn profile and I said, "Oh, you need to send me a photo." And he opened the photo app on his phone, forgetting that he was playing music to his TV on the phone. And so the pictures all blew up on his giant TV and he quite quickly pulled them all down, like clearly kind of panicked. And I was like, "That's weird. Why are you panicking about showing me your camera roll? What's on your camera roll?" And he would not tell me, nor would he show me. And I said, "You're gonna need to show me or I'm gonna leave," which I did. I left. And again, just like that night in the restaurant, I was like, "You could leave now," but I didn't. Here's where the story sorry, I'm feeling like this is a lot of blow by blow. I hope that's okay. I haven't done that much with these other stories, but, I think this one's kinda juicy. So if I'm boring you with too many details, let me know. Stuart is suggesting it might have been porn on his camera roll. I mean, maybe, but, I now know in retrospect it was not porn. Um, Porn he would have just showed me, unless it was something really depraved. So, not prudish about such things. We had watched porn together. Like, that wouldn't have been a deal breaker. Um, so this is where I think, it gets kind of interesting. Hold on, I'm finding the part in the essay here. Here it is. I'm gonna read this part out loud. "Don't think I stuck things out with a liar because I was in too deep. It was the opposite, actually. If I'd been giddy in love, I would have left. I couldn't have lived with the weight of that distrust at odds with the vulnerability of my heart. But since this was a little R relationship, I didn't take on that weight. And over time, I grew to rely on and trust Davis mostly. I trusted in his love for me because he showed up and showed it. He had my back during tough times, including 5 months of agonizing unemployment and the career angst that accompanied it. He never doubted in my ability and told me so repeatedly, even as I was starting to lose faith in myself." Um, Scroll down a little bit here. Our little R relationship was both a paradox and a trinity. The paradox lay in how much I enjoyed what we had day to day, contrasted with the irreparable trust gaps from the big lie moments. And the paradox held because of the third part in the Trinity, an underlying sort of shrug and indifference that made me able to enjoy our relationship for what it was without worrying about what it wasn't. It was the cycle of three, joy, distrust, shrug, that kept me from leaving each time. I'm a sucker for joy. The shrug kept the distrust at bay. And for 6 years, I cycled, never sure how or if the loop would stop. Um, does that make sense to all of you? As I'm rereading this, I'm like, is this too complex? I loved the idea of it as a trinity, that there was the paradox of like, I love the day to day. I love the stability he provides in my life. I don't trust him because I know there have been these big lie moments, and I'm certain there were others I just didn't know about because our lives weren't integrated enough for me to know about them. And then the third part was like, meh, does it matter if I know about them or not? It makes my day to day happier. And I just kind of kept on this wheel for quite some time. And it's not like I said, it's not a situation I ever was in before, nor since, nor do I ever intend to again. He wanted a mistress. You know what, Stuart? That's an interesting way of putting it. I think what he needed was the stability of a person because his wife had been that. He had really no friends to speak of. He had one child who was estranged, and he had no real friends. I was a rock for him, and he needed to keep that connection even more than the sexual one. So, excuse me, I wasn't his mistress. I mean, he wasn't paying for my life. Isn't a mistress kept? He certainly wasn't doing that. Um, he didn't know how to be alone. I think that's true. He was weirdly monogamous for someone who had all of these adventures in his life. Um, but I think it was more about needing the stability of relationship, and I need that and want that as well. So there was this meeting ground of stability, but at this very light level. That's what made it a little R. Um, and the way the relationship ended didn't end up being a big lie moment. There was no like, aha, and now I need to leave. It was simply a like that question I kept asking myself of like, is your life better because Davis is in it? And each day it would be like, yes, we're doing fun things. I'm enjoying this. It just became less and less until it became a like, I just don't want to see him on Wednesday or on Thursday or on Saturday. And I was really unsure though that I was like, if you give this up, Dana, is this it? Are you I we're coming to the ending soon, the part that makes me sad. I knew that if this ended, that it would probably mean I would be alone and sexless for a long time. And I was. I was not wrong. Um, and I knew there would be it would be a bumpy I suspected it would be a bumpy exit. It was the by far bumpy is a kind word, bumpiest breakup I've ever had. Um, and so I didn't I didn't even end it, he did. When I finally said something about, yeah, I grew out of the arrangement, um, and I I didn't even have the courage to just say I'm done. I had the courage to say, I don't know that I'm feeling what I should be feeling. It was very couched terms, and he very dramatically dumped me in my home, and I was like, I don't know how I'm going to feel if this happens. It was nothing but immense relief. So it had run its course for sure. I don't know that it was the kindest thing to do to him. It was really hard on him. And also, I don't, it was the way that it was time. It was time to end it. So the way that the story ends, when I wrote this in October of 2023, I say at the very end, I say, it's been nearly 2 months since we split. I've thought about setting up an online dating profile, but eh, that seems like so much effort, and it's not where my heart or head are yet. I'm going to wait until I'm ready because next time, if there's to be a next time, I'm only in for a full on relationship, a capital R, perhaps with a few exclamation points after it. And been reading that out loud now, like it almost like choked me up a little bit. Like I look back at Dana in 2023 who wrote that, and I'm like, oh, honey, you have no idea the the heartache that awaits you. Um, and so, yeah, it's been 2.5 years. I have not found a bigger relationship. Um, and it's it is an origin story. The theme of this week is origin stories, right? And this is a tough one because I think little R relationships can come in all forms. And I'll probably spill more of the tea um, on the Sunday call, but you will also see quite a bit of the tea in all of my essays that have followed. But following like the immediate essays that follow this, I might make them my 5 essays of next week because I believe there are, oh gosh, there's more than 5. There's probably like 7 or 8 that span they start right after this one ended because I met someone online only and kind of fell head over heels through my thumbs. Some of you may have read that story. I've shared it before on Substack, but I will reshare it as part of the I Read Out Loud project, followed by 3 in-person dates that didn't go well, followed by a very awful, what seemed like a very romantic that ended up being a very awful sexual experience, followed by followed by a month of me being man sober because I was like, this is not good. Um, and then not seeing anyone, or having sex at all for almost a year and a half after that, like, very long dry spell. So, I knew it would be bumpy to leave, and it has been. And I will leave it at that because I know you all have read some of my work and known what the last few years have been like. What's interesting, though, is that in the fallout of that, and the story I wrote about going man sober for March, that was my first national byline. I got an article in today.com about that. So, silver linings on bad romantic situations. They can happen, right? We'll try to look at the bright side of life, like Brian and Life of Brian. Um, I realize, hi, Sammy, I haven't been checking the chat. So I'm going to go from the bottom up because I see a lot here. And I'm going to read some of the comments out loud and answer them. But if you have questions or comments, please feel free to put them in. Tariq says, I love that you're doing origin stories. I did that once, but called them my series of moments. Oh, that's a nice name. I like that. That's very literary. I want to hear about the date where he met you outside at the table at the coffee shop and didn't buy you anything. Oh my gosh. I have never written an essay about him. I just mentioned that in passing, Karen, but I should write a story about it, um, because it involves, do you know Adeline Diamond? I'm not sure how she pronounces her last name. My very favorite writer on Substack. He was affiliated with her in ways that are very funny. Um, that guy, yes, I did not meet the bar for that man. But I can tell that story another time. He did, though. We met at a tea house and sat down, and he was like, let's just sit here and talk. And we didn't buy tea or anything. We just sat out in the cold and talked. I'm trying to figure out what a big R would be compared to a little r. A big R relationship is a real relationship where my heart is invested. And I will say, throughout all the hard times or all of the, not hard times, let's just say romantic misadventures since this was written, one of the guiding tenets of me in dating now is no more little r relationships by design. Some of them have started and ended quicker than I wanted them to. Um, so they ended up being what I might call a little r relationship, but not because I wanted them to, not because my heart wasn't on the line. I no longer, like, if I start dating someone and if I go on a few dates and I'm like, he seems really great. There was one in particular who I went on quite a few dates with, but just my heart and my body were just like, no, he's a really good guy. In the parlance of burned haystack dating method, he's a needle, but somebody else's needle. He's not mine. Um, I don't want to start something again because I know my capacity for relationship is immense. And I don't want to start something where my heart isn't invested because then I will end up here again, stable, but not fully engaged here. And I don't want that. I would rather be alone. So that's what I mean by a little r relationship. That's a really good, that's how I'm defining it as, it's smaller because my heart isn't involved. And so I can't be hurt as much. So, let me see here. Was the relationship with your ex-husband a big R? Oh, yes, the biggest R. Like, we had a very big love, and I still love and care for him immensely. But the beginning of it, yes, he was the love I dream of finding. That it didn't work out is, complicated in a big story, and I don't know that that's one I will write. I don't write about that. I've dabbled in one lightweight story about him that I'm gonna run in a few weeks, because it was written on his birthday, which is coming up, so I'll write about it then. Let me see what other comments and questions we have here. Jen Hex, I'm glad you're here. I love your username. Every time I see it, it makes me happy. I cannot believe this. I'm living this right now. The only difference is I'm an insecure attacher, so I struggle with how to handle things, but we are also weirdly close. Um, wow. Well, um, I'm not sure. I assume I don't know which element of this that's referring to, but if you mean that you were in a heart lightweight but meaningful relationship, it can be healthy. And for some people, it works. For some people, it's enough. I thought it could be enough for me, and it was enough for several years, but in the end, it wasn't enough. And my nervous system just kind of went into like, nope, 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 nope. And but in some ways, the story starts with the breakup of that small but really like, broke my heart in a million pieces breakup, because some of this was a response to that. It was in response to like, wow, me saying like, if this isn't the love I've been waiting for, then I don't know who is. Um, or there's no love waiting for me. I really believed that for a very long time, and I don't believe that anymore. So, um, so that feels good. Let's see here. I think you said it was mutually at some level satisfying. It was. It was. Karen says, I love the Trinity framing. Thank you. I thought little Armandi was a Republican too. No, do not fuck Republicans. If I have time to write it this week, I was thinking about writing a pre-Valentine's Day essay that's just called, Hey ladies, do not fuck Republicans. Do not fuck MAGA ever. Never, 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 never. Hard no. That would never happen. No one could be hot enough. No, 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 no. But that's very funny, and in this political environment, I can see why you thought that. Um, Let me see here. Um, some things here about Trump. That's platonic. It's not giving entirely of yourself. Still self-preservationalist in that. It wasn't platonic. I mean, it was, I don't know if you were referring to my story there, Eric, or something else, but it was definitely like, we had a lot of heat. It was sexually a really satisfying, good relationship. Um, I'm debating how, what the heck, we're all adults here. I remember saying to friends in describing it, there's a difference between like, I'm longing for this person. Like, I love sex and I'm longing for this person. And so the sex is great, versus being like, I love sex and the sex is great. We do the sex really well together, but I'm not super like lusting after this specific person. So there's like a satisfaction in it. The sex is great, but that heart tug element was missing, if that makes sense. So, um, let me see here. Oh, someone's commenting on my house. Is this a New England house? I'm in Seattle, and it is a Tudor. Ooh, don't come find me. There's a zillion Tudors out here. The wood looks regional. I believe it is. It's a 1930 house. So, um, yes. Thank you for noticing. I usually have the camera tilted more like this. See the green wall? This is where, whoops, let me come over here. This is where I have been. And I actually think that this looks nicer, less messy, but I can't read the screen as easily. I would have been like this with the webcam. So I turned it like that. I hope that's okay. All right, let me see some more comments here. Sammy, that's because we aren't taught to feel. If you ask a woman near you to do a dude voice, she'll say something dumb or ignorant. That's what men learn too. Okay. I don't know what Sammy's original comment is, but men are the gold medal winners. Oh, because Nick says people are shitty because they don't process. It's not gender based. And Sammy says, but men are the gold medal winners. I'm with you, Sammy. And I agree, Nick. It is, a lot of it is socialization. The patriarchy harms men and women. I'm with you. That is completely true. It's interesting that two people can have amazing chemistry but aren't compatible. Um, I don't know that we had amazing chemistry. Again, there's a difference between the sex was really good and we had amazing chemistry. So you could ponder that idea. The sugar bowl remained unwashed. Oh no, the sugar bowl, the sugar bowl was washed plenty, Jason. I see you daily, whatever. We're really trying to make sugar bowl happen. Wash my sugar bowl. Toss my salad, wash my sugar bowl. It's gonna happen. One day it's gonna be in the OED, and I'll know my life is fulfilled. Amanda says, I feel like we have had many parallels. So many times it's like you're reading my life. Wow, that's a huge compliment. Thank you, Amanda. Um, that's why I think memoir writing is so important, because then it becomes a cultural observation and it elevates it to something we're all experiencing and maybe something we can all be managing better and learning from each other. So, yeah, now my web stand is blocking the chat where it is. So let me see. I have to duck down a little. Um, Sex can be great, but there's nothing mentally in common. Yeah, that can happen. Now I know about it. I'll use Sugar Bowl. Okay, good. In context, I would love to wash your Sugar Bowl. So the background on Sugar Bowl is there's an essay I wrote. I have not yet shared it as part of this collection yet. I write out loud, but I will. And it's a recent story of mine, though. It published to Gen XE, the Daily Whatever show, and it's paraphrasing the title, but it's the one that's about comparing BDE, big dick energy, with B um, between date behavior, BDB. And it opens with, I knew I was halfway in love with him when he washed my sugar bowl. And it's literal. It describes how the first morning he spent at my house, I had like a crusty sugar bowl and I was embarrassed because I don't use sugar in my tea, but he needed it for his coffee. So I went and found a bag of sugar and gave it to him. But after he left and I came back, he had washed it for me. And it was this small act of care and taking care of my home that I was just like, wow, I haven't lived with another adult in a long time. And it really meant a lot. But when I read it out loud and talked about it on the Daily Whatever show, my co-host Lawrence, my best friend, was like, "Washed your sugar bowl, huh?" And so that's become a thing. I bet he washed your sugar bowl. So let's make that a thing. That's what that's all about. Pop my cork, Nikki. Yeah, similar. Let me see here. That's actually the best sugar bowl story, and it takes the dirt out of the innuendo. Yeah, or it just makes the innuendo sort of sweet because it does have a literal meaning. Ah. He had a lot of good attributes, that guy, but in the end, a little R relationship. I was hoping he could be a big R one, but did not have a big R in him, and that is a heartache for another day. If there are no other questions, if you do have questions, put them in there. If there aren't any, I may sign off because I have one quick task I need to do before my children start coming home from school. Um, yeah, so I may it's like all these things that need to happen first, like the reading of these stories. I have to do that when the house is really quiet. So this microphone right here, it's very sensitive. So if they're home at all, it picks up every sound. So um, I have to try to squeeze it all in before they get home. Um, Thank you. Tariq says, thank you for sharing all this with us, Dana. Thank you for being here. There's more than 100 people here. That means so, so much. I'm so happy that you've all been here. Tomorrow's story, I working on it, and it's the origin story about my dad and his dementia. And I'm revisiting it as I'm rebuilding the page. It's a powerful story, you guys. I don't want to be too self-important again, but it is also one of the better stories I've ever written. Kind of a gut-wrenching one to write, and I think it has really interesting backstory of how it came to be. So I can't wait to share it with you. For today, if you enjoyed this story about Little R relationships, please comment, and especially restack the article. That really gets people to see it because Substack starts being like, aha, people like this. And we'll share it to more people. And I would really like people to find this little project of mine. So um, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening and for your support. And I will see you all tomorrow. It might be the same time. I might need to push it out an hour to 5 o'clock Eastern, 2 o'clock my time. I'll schedule it either tonight or tomorrow morning, so you should see it. But it will be tomorrow, and the story is called "My Father is Much More Likable Now That He Has Dementia." Um, and it has a big scope. It has a big scope. So, thank you, thank you, thank you. I love you all. See you tomorrow. Bye.